It's very cold.
3D Episode 1, Phantom Menace.
Popcorn in my cleavage.
Guys.
How did that happen?
This movie is so wizard, you guys. Seriously.
You mean? No, I would choke your ass for making me sit next to Douchey McVirgin. Jesus Christ. Excuse me,
I at least got to be
midichlorians.
the middle of the comedy trifecta.
That's true, yeah.
I got everybody's comments. It was great.
At this point, I mean, it feels... what is it, 12, 13 years or so?
Yeah.
It was worse.
It was like 96 or 97.
It is, yeah, like,
It's worse than I remember it.
it's,
We're just gonna bitch about the movie because the 3D was essentially non-existent.
well, we'll get to the 3D,
We'll get to the
3D,
Right.
We'll get
So
to the
much
3D.
anger.
Well, in terms of the movie, it's my first time seeing it all the way through since I saw it
Turning to
in
the dark
'99
side.
or whenever it first came out, and. Yeah, it is a little worse. And you know, I didn't like it back then. There's a reason I only saw it once. But and no, at this point it does seem redundant to actually review the movie because you've got hours upon hours of footage online of detailed reviews of this thing that will last.
They're watching it.
That will last a fucking lifetime. I'm just saying we don't need to do a point-by-point review thing of this.
I forgot that he was Space Jesus.
You forgot that he was Jesus?
I forgot that he was Space Jesus.
Dave, he's obviously Jesus. Why did you think he didn't have a dad?
This is why I'm a fucking atheist.
Well, then we're really going to miss you in Space Heaven.
Yeah, Dave. Seriously.
We'll be thinking
Space
about it.
Enjoy it. It's written by Lucas.
Space Heaven's gonna be really slapsticky, Dave.
It's really going to be goofy.
That was one thing I forgot about the movie.
Racial stereotype.
Was the well, I remember the racial stereotype. It's got the racial sensitivity of Michael Bay.
Right.
One thing that I forgot about was like the Warner Brothers hijinks music whenever Jar Jar
Yeah.
was on screen. Like I forgot about that. Like
Jar Jar.
you know what? Going to see this movie again, there was one thing I was kind of hoping for, and one thing that I was sort of looking forward to, and that would be that we would have an audience of people like us,
Right, yeah.
who.
No, we were the only
No,
ones.
most people like this movie.
They were into it.
Every single person.
They were
They
14.
applauded
I know
that.
they were applauding it like, "Yay, Star Wars! This is apparently what it's like."
No.
There were a couple of funny points though. Like before the movie shows, the lady who the employee, she comes out and she's talking to the audience and she's like, "Are you guys ready to see Star Wars?" And like half of the audience applauded. So I was sort of like, maybe this will be like half and half. Like it'll go.
They were just trying to listen to her.
Yeah, like it'll be like an all-out war thing. And then the one guy behind us was great. That was the same guy who goes like, "Can we watch episode 5 instead?"
She's like, "No, sorry, that's my favorite."
yeah, that guy should have come up and sat with us.
Seriously, yeah.
So like
They all started chanting free toys because they gave
they
away
wanted
little
toys. Yeah, they gave us little toys. And well, the lady said like, "All right, now if any of you," and she was serious. She goes, "If any of you snook in lightsabers and you snook them past me, you got 10 minutes to take them out to the car, because those are technically weapons, and they light up." She was being
They're
dead
light up
serious.
They're weapons.
This poor lady, she was dealing with this fucking audience.
I was just looking at her sympathetically. She
Yeah.
was looking like right back at me.
No masks. No masks.
Well,
that one
Douchey
kid next to
McVirgin
us.
had the Boba Fett like paper mache mask.
It was brown. It was the color of poo.
It was paper mache.
Well, Dave, it's got to be brown, Dave, or else he'll get sued for likeness.
This is true, yeah.
No, it was a piece of crap. It was no likeness to Boba Fett.
He was smart. He doesn't want to get sued.
Indeed, yeah. So
That was actually like when this young kid comes up and he's got like a big thing of popcorn. He's got the helmet and everything.
Well, he's
which
not
if you
that
want
young. Don't say he's that young, because then I just sound mean for yelling at him.
You already sound mean for calling him a virgin twice.
Virgin because he will never get laid. Not because he was young. He will never
He
get
gave
laid
me
in
a
his life.
blowjob halfully through the movie, and he was really good. I think he's done it
wondering
before.
why like someone was hunched over your lap.
Is that
'Cause
why
you-
you were gripping my thigh?
That's because the pod race was really scary.
That is when
That was tits.
It was intense.
the N64
It
game
was
pod
wizard.
racer was actually.
Wizard.
I still.
totally wizard. Yeah.
So the N64 pod race game
Yeah.
and like the musical score are pretty much the only two good things to come out of the movie.
Liam
I like
Neeson.
classical music. Well, yeah, but he didn't survive, so you didn't really get him through the movie.
Well, he makes it to the end.
Yeah, as a burning corpse.
Right, yeah. So,
We won't get into
This whole, you know what this movie is?
The wound.
This movie is 2 hours and 15 minutes of George Lucas making a bet with someone that he can try to embarrass Liam Neeson. Like, I'll bet you $10 million I can put so much goofy shit in a movie and make Liam Neeson crack. Dude, but no, Liam Neeson remains dignified.
There were a few scenes where he kind of had this look like, is it my death scene yet?
right. You see, well, what he was thinking the whole time is once this check clears.
Yeah.
So, oh my god.
That was a stipulation. He gets killed off.
You guys are cynical dicks. Seriously. Dude, because, like, in the other movies, like, you didn't know what the Force was, and in this one, like, you know.
Who asked? Who the fuck asked? I
No,
remember.
dude.
That's
The
what.
magic of...
Okay.
Dude, but now you know.
No,
You
okay.
know for sure.
I know. They go from midichlorians that are microorganisms that live in our cells.
They're bacteria.
That live in everybody, and you can't coexist without it.
Oh,
yet
and they
not
talk to
everybody
you.
feels the
They
force.
fucking talk to you.
Well, then, no, that's self, like, feel the force news. So
Guys,
they're,
like,
you know, moving
in the
around.
other movies, like, you weren't sure how C-3PO and R2-D2 met, and in this one, like, you see it.
Oh my god. And then, oh no, the reveal.
And he's naked.
The reveal when they're like, oh, who's this little robot that saved our lives? This little blue and silver robot. And they're like, what's his name? Big dramatic pause. R2-D2.
Well, we gotta know his name somehow.
I guess.
Yeah, no, he's
It's
not one of the
riveting.
most recognizable characters in the
Well,
movie
no,
history.
not at this point, Dave. This is the first one.
Right, we go into this knowing nothing about Star Wars.
Yeah, right? We know nothing, you guys.
Oh, that's-
Seriously.
We
Are
seriously.
we gonna get on the 3D?
Oh, okay,
Because
alright.
it sucked.
So the 3D of this thing.
It might as well have been 2D.
Now, this honest, and I'm not saying that because I don't like the movie. I'm not saying it because I don't like the movie, because I've seen movies I don't like that are in 3D, and the 3D has been fine, and I've said the 3D has been fine. This, honestly, is the worst 3D I've ever seen. Like, there are people who will go see this movie just because it's in 3D. Like, maybe they're iffy about the movie,
Don't
or
do
maybe
it.
they don't even like it.
Keep
But
your
they
13 bucks.
think that, like, okay, the pod race scene, the battles in space,
right.
everything like
Could
that.
have been made somewhat more interesting. But
Yeah, like,
it's-
would look good in 3D. No, none of it
I
does.
kept taking my glasses on and
Yeah.
off to like see the difference. There's a minute difference between where the character is in the foreground
Yeah.
and the background, and even then, half the time they achieve that by making the background blurry.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like the in the front was more prominent. But even the scenes where there should have been good 3D,
Yeah.
where like Jake Lloyd is pulling out that magnetic thing to fix his pod racer,
Yeah.
it's straight out in front of the screen and nothing. Like it's exactly like 2D. So I mean, it was really pointless. I was doing that through half the movie, is just double checking. I'm like, this is
Yeah, and well, the problem is that whenever the camera moves, it goes blurry.
Yeah.
It goes completely blurry. When it stays on an object, it's not blurry, but it's still not good 3D. It looks like a cardboard cutout.
The reason for that is that the way that they make movies like this into 3D is that
Conversion.
technical.
it's conversion.
Yeah.
They're doing a processing to convert the image into 3D. Instead of something being shot in 3D, when you shoot in 3D, you have two cameras right next to each other.
Yeah.
So you have binocular type vision to actually get depth and so forth, which is why in 3D when something comes at you, it looks like it comes at you, which is a gimmick at theme parks for a 10-minute ride, and then it's fine. It's like, oh, wow, what fun. But for 2.5 hours of a trade negotiation, which, by the way, I
Riveting!
was very, very gripping on that trade negotiation.
Guys, you guys,
They needed like naked women
I was
masturbating
dead
in the back
serious.
exposition.
dude, these 3 movies were better. The other 3 movies hardly dealt with the specifics of interplanetary trade law.
You know what? You're right. Everybody raves about Empire Strikes Back, but never once in Empire Strikes Back
Exactly.
do they discuss parliamentary procedure.
Yeah,
Right.
What's that
See?
God, a fucking Yeti? I mean,
Fuck that.
No.
I want cold hard facts.
If I want to see a Yeti movie, I'll watch an Asylum movie.
Is it against the law to crawl into a dead
ever
tampon?
discuss sending a committee to investigate trade negotiations? When does that happen?
Never. And that's why that
Never.
movie sucks.
Exactly.
What about-
Exactly.
What about incest? That's got to be like against the Federation and shit.
There was incest in this movie?
No. Empire Strikes Back.
Guys, I'm not even joking around anymore.
We were
This might have been
talking
really
about
good.
this trilogy.
When was this happening?
Oh, okay, Luke and Leia. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, the Luke and Leia thing. Oh, yeah.
Well, that was hot. I mean,
That was barely
Brother,
incest.
sister.
I mean, it's
Caligula's my favorite movie. You think I'm going to have a problem with the incest in Star Wars?
It's not incest if you don't know. It's just
See?
No, because in Jedi she goes, I know. Somehow, I've always known.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Boom.
Just like Lucas always had these scripts written.
I call bullshit.
The only part in this movie where, like, the 3D was like, okay, was the opening titles, and even that, even that sucked, because throughout all of the 3D images in there, it's like you see the outline of the object right next to the actual object, and so basically you're seeing one star next to the same star, and that repeated. So it still looks like dick. This is, even for a conversion, honestly, even for a conversion, this was bad.
Yeah, it was bad.
This was worse than
This was not made to be a 3D conversion. This was made to be a two-dimensional film that you see on a screen, and it's...
There was barely a difference.
This was worse than the 3D and Airbender.
And what was distracting in the subtitle parts, like when they're on Tatooine, that was disturbing because the subtitles were coming out, but then it kind of took you away because the rest wasn't in 3D, so you had the words kind of jumping out, and it was just weird. But the scenes that should have been, you know, not gripping or whatever, but, you know, impressive in 3D, where when they were in the water on the ship and everything, and the ship goes right in front of the screen, nothing, exactly like 2D. And I want to say, and it's been forever and a half since I saw it, I want to say they even added 2 CGI fish, because the ship goes away, and then this fish just comes, like, out of the side.
That's a good point. They added stuff.
But it
Dave and I noticed.
It wasn't even
3D. Nick was sitting next to me. He mentioned, like, in the pod racing, before they actually go to the race, they spent a little bit of time talking,
introducing the
like
characters.
introducing other characters.
That wasn't in the pre.
No, I don't remember any of that. And Nick leaned over to me.
It's hard for me to say. I haven't seen it in
about
13
a month ago,
years.
they put out an action playset where you could buy figures of all the characters in the game.
Oh, that's
Well,
right.
that's the reason.
Yeah, because I was watching it too, and I was like, well, maybe it's just been too long since I've seen it, or they had a...
To be honest, when I was little,
There's a couple scenes that I didn't recognize.
You and I kind of, because there was one part,
It
like,
might be in it, but
it might be, honestly, yeah, it might be, but it just...
What part?
There was one part where it's before the race happens, and all of a sudden it just cuts to, like, the side of one of the houses, and that floating orb comes floating around the building and, like, right up to the camera.
New. Yeah,
and then goes away. You and I looked at each other
really
like, what the fuck was
like,
that?
Bounty hunter dudes in
Right,
the back
right, yeah.
wearing like paintball gear.
and
Like, it has nothing
the
to
orb
do
just
with
kind of goes
anything.
right through them. Like, it doesn't even, there's
it was
no
5
movement
seconds
around
of filler.
it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, see, that's where they add stuff. He decided to add stuff there, like
To be like 3D, but then it didn't even come off in 3D.
But I mean, like, what part of the story did we ever care? I mean, obviously, if it's for action figures, that's why they did it.
No, it's
You mean the little Orby action figure?
Yeah, dude, that's gonna be worth something someday.
No, but the thing of it is I know why he did that, not just his, like, I was expecting, like, a Pepsi machine somewhere in the background, just, like...
I'm sure there is one.
Tauntaun Cola. No, but, the reason he did that is because it's like, yeah.
I'm gonna open this up and see what the hell's inside this.
I got a Han Solo and Carbonite, and then the Obi-Wan Kenobi from the prequels. Oh, you got R2, you bastard.
You son of a bitch.
Yeah. Let's see what's in mine.
Well, at least I got Han Solo and Carbonite. I usurped his, so they're mine now.
What are all these?
I got a little
That's just like all the toys you can get. I was hoping I got Bikini Leia, but
It's Christmas decorations.
no. But anyway,
a weird little blue.
Oh, you got the Avatar. Hold that up to the camera.
that's one of the Jedi from the third one or whatever, where they all start dying off.
Trade.
Oh, right.
No, but yeah, that's the thing is, like, he wasn't adding it because it was one of the cases in the 4, 5, and 6 where it was, we wanted this and we couldn't have it. It was more so a case of, all right, we're gonna do some 3D stuff in front of the camera, but it didn't even look like. I mean, when it failed, nothing really came at you other than text.
Yeah.
Nothing.
I understand fully. Like, you're naive to think that if that for any reason any of this stuff is made because they want to actually have it be like a good movie for entertainment value. It's solely for making money. But there is a point where you have to say it still has to be an entertaining and a good movie that at some point, at some level, makes sense.
Well, apparently the rest of the audience thought it was.
Which is why I have no hope for America. I'm seriously considering Canadian citizenship.
Well, you've got to get into the Trade Federation so you can change the Senate.
Well,
See, this
you know
movie
what?
teaches you something.
Exactly, about
Next to the
parliamentary
ETs.
procedures. So that way, I need to go to the subcommittee.
See?
And I need to come up with the first reading and hearing, and it's very bureaucratic.
So now you're glad you came.
I'm glad I came. I'm really glad.
I sent Jake a text before the movie. I sent Jake a text like,
you did.
sitting here waiting for this bad movie to start. This sucks.
You have no idea.
Jake writes back to me like, really? Fucking really?
You know what? I'm gonna say this, and I love Jake, and I give him credit for all the bad shit he's had to go see.
Yeah.
He didn't have to see that in theaters again.
with the audience. At least, Mr. Popper's Penguins, he got some
got
action
people
out of
fucking.
it.
Yeah.
But what? And of all the ones that he could have released and changed stuff to, because the other ones, special editions and shit got changed, and it was all really bad shit that got put in. Of all the ones, like this one, like it could have fixed some. Just release, just
perfect.
Yeah, okay.
It's so perfect.
Just release the Phantom edit. That was better. That was a lot better. The Phantom edit was.
Release this fucking Christmas special. At least I can laugh.
I like the holiday special better. I like the holiday special.
3D.
I mean,
really stand out.
the holiday special's bad, but I like it better than.
B. Arthur rock out in 3D.
Right? That part's really good. The cartoon's really good. Like, the holiday special's bad, but I'd rather watch that than any of the prequels. But the only thing in this one's like Yoda's now CGI.
Give him money.
Woo!
That was totally the problem that I had with it before. Was that Yoda wasn't
Are you being
CGI.
facetious?
That was
is
my
my
only
actually
problem.
fragile.
They made Yoda CGI, and he only moved in one scene.
They
The
did
rest
it
of the
so it
time, he's
looks along
fucking
with the other
sitting
ones.
on his
Yeah.
ass.
Yeah, but he looked fake, dude.
You look like a
He looked like
I totally thought he was there.
he looked like a flesh object. You're right. It was terrible.
Well,
He
and
wasn't human at all.
Yeah, exactly.
the thing is, too, because they had him as a puppet in the first one, and, whatever, since the second and the third they
Yeah.
didn't, they had other Yoda species or whatever in the makeup.
Mm-hmm.
So it looked even weirder to have that Yoda and then next to the people in makeup that looked better than the CG Yoda.
Uh-huh.
But I want to know the story what happened to Jabba's wife, because she was there and never spoken of again. I think
Same thing that happened to Chewie's wife from
I think
the
she
holiday
got
special.
fed. I think she got fed to the Rancor, and then the Rancor got stuck, and that's why he was so angry when he
Whatever
attacked
happened to
Luke.
Mala?
Well, I guess my final words on this is like,
Don't waste your money. It's
I
not
just
even
don't.
3D.
I just don't like the movie. Okay, I never liked it. It has nothing to do with me jumping on any sort of bandwagon because, like most people say, the movie sucks. The movie does suck. I think it's a bad movie. I think
It's just a bad movie,
If you even take Star Wars out of it, it's just I don't like the movie. I think it's stupid. I think it's annoying.
It's got a lot of plot holes.
Oh, it's got a lot of poop jokes, which about the third or fourth
Yeah.
poop joke, I had to go, right in the middle.
I did that too.
That was me, yeah.
I thought it was Dave because he was.
Yeah.
Oh, Dave!
Even
we
as-
went Ricola at the same time when they sang
Yeah.
the horn. Brad was like, "Dave just did that."
Dave just did that,
simultaneously."
honey. That's so 1 second ago.
Oh God! I was doing it ironically.
And I realize that like it's mostly a kids movie, but it's a bad kids movie.
But that's the thing. Star Wars wasn't made to be
But
kids.
I know,
movies.
I know, I know.
Yeah, it was never meant to
Yeah,
be.
I know, but
But for those of you who liked episode 1 and you're only going because it's 3D, save the money. It's really not that much 3D. I mean, unless you just want to see it on the big screen again for funsies, it's really not
There's no
worth
fun
paying
in
the.
this.
If you say
There's
words
no
like
fun
funsies,
in
I see
this.
if they like it. If they like it.
If they like it, then they need to fucking hang themselves.
Hey, he doesn't mean that. David's opinions does not reflect the opinions of the CinemaSnob.com or affiliates.
a much funnier movie would be just like the camera pointed at George Lucas, like seriously writing the dialogue at a typewriter, like writing yippee, writing
Twice.
yeah,
Twice.
writing "you people gonna die" and like "it squeeze me," like seriously writing this on paper.
Showing this to his
Just
aides
need
going,
to go
I think this is
fuck
going to be really
yourself.
good. I think people are really going to like this. They're
gonna
going
like
to
it.
look at this and they're going to say, yeah, that's so wizard. They're going to, that's the no
dude,
catchphrase.
of course they're gonna like it. It's got Star Wars
That's
on
Star
it.
Wars. Yeah, they'll really like that. Absolutely, yes. Whatever. We're all naked and money now.
Well,
So-
there was a preview for what was that John
John Carter.
John Carter, and
That
it
was
just
the worst
looked like
looking 3D trailer
yes,
I've ever seen in my life.
it looked like
was
a
horrible.
remake of Episode 3 or something because they had like the or 2, or I don't know, whichever ones, they had the, like, pit with the monsters. It was kind of like Gladiator. And then just the way the ships were in the preview was put together. And then he was all covered in blue, so he looked like Avatar, so it's...
Which is
all
also
coming
kind of
together.
amusing because the story for John Carter was written in, like, 1908.
Right, yeah.
Dear Mrs. Cinema Snob, I would like you to know that John Carter of Mars is much older than Star Wars.
No, Mr. Schnapp, no home.
All right, what are you guys' final words on this?
Fucking space Jesus.
No!
Ah!
R2!
We have to go to Dagobah. And I don't know the way.
Don't worry, the
I
toys
won't
will return
steal
in
it from
greater
you if you really
numbers.
want it.
That's right, they'll return it in
He
greater numbers.
has to. It's the free Han Solo that's in my car. You can have this back and waste time with your friends later.
All right.
So that's been the end of us ragging on a movie that's
Everybody else
13
is
years
already
old.
ragged on and so forth.
We didn't even touch on the points
We're a
worth
little late to the
ragging on,
party on
so
ragging
you
on
were
Because
kind.
everyone already
That's what I'm
has.
saying. We were kind, so it wasn't
Yeah.
just a.
Well, I mean, yeah, because you can jump on the bandwagon of saying how much you hate it, but everybody knows it's not a great movie. It just, was it any better in 3D? Fuck no.
No, God, no.
Except our audience. So
And the
let me
movie
ask
is
you
honestly worse than I
Was the
remember.
extra 5 minutes of footage worth anything?
that fish in front of the screen sold it. I love episode 1. That changed it for me.
I liked the guy in the paintball gear.
I think it would have been,
Yeah.
I think the extra 5 minutes should have been George Lucas holding a big wad of money going,
Well,
You
it's
know, it
funny
might be after the credits.
it might be
actually.
there, yeah.
when it was scrolling up and it was like Lucasfilm, and then it goes Star Wars Episode 1: The Phantom Menace. I expected it to just be like, "We're sorry." Scrolling up.
Oh, no, not we're sorry, not I got your money.
George Lucas at the end. We're sorry.
My favorite part is where it sort of sounds like Anakin is saying, "This is tits." This is tits, right?
So let me ask you this: if there's midnights of the 2nd and the 3rd, etc.,
yeah,
are we
we'll be
going
there.
so we can just complain?
We
about
saw this piece of shit.
Well, I know, but the whole point was to review the 3D, so the non-existent
Oh,
3D. So
we'll
it's just
be
gonna be
there.
like, nope, wasn't any better. There's actually an article that said he may not release the rest of them.
Oh no.
No. We'll
I want 4,
definitely
5,
go
and
for
6,
the other
though.
for the rest of them, just so we can have an entire half-hour conversation about robotic fucking mice.
Yeah, dude.
That needs to happen in a car.
That made episode 3 so much darker, was the robot mice.
Yeah,
And
it
calling
was-
them younglings.
Younglings.
Ah.
Yes.
Alright. See ya.
Bye.